The Mind-Gut Connection: How the Astonishing Dialogue Taking Place in Our Bodies Impacts Health, Weight, and Mood, by Emeran Mayer. The Mind-Gut Connection: How the Hidden Conversation Within Our Bodies Impacts Our Mood, Our Choices, and Our Overall Health, by Drive. Emeran Mayer. Introduction. I want you to meet a young man named Bill. When he was just a teenager, his life fell apart. It started with agonizing stomach pain, followed by waves of vomiting he couldn't control. This wasn't a simple stomach bug. It was a relentless cycle that would send him to the emergency room several times a week, desperate for relief. Doctors were baffled. They ran every test imaginable: endoscopies, CT scans, blood work, and found nothing. Absolutely nothing. Some doctors, frustrated and suspicious, even labeled him a drug seeker, whispering that it was all in his head. His life stalled. He had to drop out of college and move back in with his parents, a prisoner in his own body, haunted by a mysterious illness no one could explain. What Bill and his doctors didn't know was that the answer wasn't in a single, broken part. The problem wasn't in his stomach alone, or even in his head alone. The problem was in the conversation happening between the two. A hidden biological dialogue that has been going on inside every one of us since the day we were born. This is the world that Drive. Emeran Mayer invites us into with his groundbreaking book, The Mind-Gut Connection. Drive. Mayer isn't just a doctor, he's a pioneer who has spent over 40 years exploring the intricate relationship between our brain and our digestive system. He reveals that our old way of thinking about the body, as a complicated machine with independent parts, is fundamentally wrong. It's why we're losing the battle against chronic diseases like obesity, depression, and autoimmune disorders. The truth, he says, is far more fascinating. Our body isn't a machine. It's an intelligent, interconnected ecosystem. And at the heart of this ecosystem is a powerful, two-way communication network between your mind and your gut. So, here is my promise to you. By the end of our time together, you will understand this hidden conversation. You'll learn why the gut is often called our second brain and how it impacts your mood, your decisions, and your overall health in ways you've never imagined. You will discover that gut feelings aren't just a metaphor, they are a real, biological process. And most importantly, you will learn how to become the engineer of your own internal world, making simple choices that can reestablish and optimize this vital connection, leading you down the road to wellness and optimal health. Book summary. For the longest time, modern medicine has viewed the human body like a high-quality car. As long as you give it the right fuel and get a few checkups, it should run smoothly for about 75 years. If a part breaks, say, your heart or your stomach, a specialist will try to fix or replace it, like a mechanic swapping out a faulty engine component. This machine model worked wonders for acute problems like infections or a broken bone. But over the last 50 years, something has gone terribly wrong. We're facing an explosion of chronic diseases, obesity, depression, anxiety, autoimmune disorders, even Alzheimer's, that this old model can't explain, let alone fix. We keep trying to repair individual parts, but we're missing the bigger picture. The problem isn't a broken part, it's a breakdown in communication. And the epicenter of that communication is a place most of us have been taught to ignore: our gut. We tend to think of our digestive system as a simple food processing plant. Food goes in, nutrients come out, and waste is eliminated. But Drive. Mayer reveals that this is a wild understatement. Your gut is one of the most complex, intelligent, and powerful systems in your entire body. In fact, it's so sophisticated that scientists have nicknamed it the second brain. Think about this for a moment. Wrapped around your intestines is a network of 50 to 100 million nerve cells, called the enteric nervous system, or ENS. That's as many neurons as you have in your entire spinal cord. This little brain is so smart it can manage the entire complex process of digestion all by itself, without any help from the brain in your head. Your gut also houses the largest part of your body's immune system. More immune cells live in the wall of your gut than circulate in your blood or reside in your bone marrow. And it's the largest hormone-producing organ in your body. If you gathered all its endocrine cells together, they would form an organ bigger than your thyroid, adrenal glands, and gonads combined. But perhaps the most startling fact is this: your gut is the body's main warehouse for serotonin. That's the famous feel-good neurotransmitter that regulates mood, sleep, and overall well-being. A staggering 95% of your body's serotonin is stored not in your brain, but in specialized cells within your gut. Why would a simple digestive tube need this incredible arsenal of nerve cells, immune cells, and mood-regulating chemicals? Because the gut's job isn't just digestion. It's information gathering. Your gut is a vast sensory organ, with a surface area the size of a basketball court, packed with thousands of tiny sensors that are constantly analyzing everything you eat and drink. This information doesn't just stay in the gut. It's sent straight to your brain, creating a constant, two-way conversation. Let's start with a conversation flowing from the top down, from your brain to your gut. Have you ever felt butterflies in your stomach before a big presentation? Or had a gut-wrenching experience? These aren't just phrases. They're descriptions of a real biological event. Your gut drive, Mayer explains, is a theater in which the drama of your emotions plays out. Every single emotion you experience in your brain, anger, fear, sadness, joy, has a mirror image in your gut. Your brain sends a distinct pattern of signals to your digestive system, causing it to react in a specific way for each emotion. When you're angry, for example, your stomach goes into vigorous contractions, increasing acid production. When you're depressed, your intestines hardly move at all. This connection is so powerful and so primal that we can see it in action in some of the most famous cases in medical history. In the 1820s, an army surgeon named William Beaumont treated a fur trapper named Alexis Street Martin, who had been accidentally shot, leaving him with a permanent hole in his stomach that opened to the outside of his body. This gave Beaumont an unprecedented window into human digestion. He observed that when Street Martin became angry or irritable, the man's digestion slowed down dramatically. It was the first scientific proof that our emotions can directly influence the activity of our stomach. This is precisely what was happening to Bill, the young man who couldn't stop vomiting. His problem wasn't a disease of the stomach, it was a disorder of the brain-gut axis. His brain had an overactive stress response system. A master switch chemical in the brain called corticotropin-releasing factor, or CRF, was being released in excessive amounts. This CRF was like a false fire alarm, constantly telling his body it was in a state of emergency. It made him feel anxious, but it also sent a chaotic cascade of signals down to his gut, causing his stomach to slow down, reverse its contractions, and violently empty its contents upward. Once drive. Mayer understood this. The solution wasn't to treat Bill's stomach. It was to calm the hyperactive stress circuits in his brain. With the right medication and understanding, Bill's attacks stopped, and he was finally able to get his life back. Bill's story is an extreme example, but it reveals a fundamental truth for all of us. Our mind state directly impacts our gut health. The brain is the director, and the gut is the stage. But this is only half of the story. The really revolutionary discovery is that the gut talks back to the brain. And it turns out, it does most of the talking. The vagus nerve is the superhighway of information connecting the brain and the gut. For a long time, we thought it was mostly a top-down command line. But we now know that an incredible 90% of the nerve fibers in the vagus nerve are carrying information from the gut to the brain. Just 10% flow in the other direction. Think about what that means. Your brain is far more interested in listening to what your gut has to say than it is in telling it what to do. What is the gut reporting on that's so vital? Everything. Through its vast network of sensors, it's constantly sending updates about the chemical composition of your last meal, the presence of nutrients, and even the activity of the trillions of microorganisms living inside it. Most of this happens below the level of conscious awareness. You don't feel your intestines contracting or your pancreas releasing enzymes. Your brain's salience network filters most of it out, so you can focus on the outside world. But some of these signals do bubble up into our consciousness. We call them gut feelings. And these feelings, far from being mystical or imaginary, are the brain's interpretation of the raw data streaming up from your gut. This is where a gut sensation becomes an emotional feeling. These signals travel to a special part of the brain called the insular cortex, a hidden island deep in our gray matter that acts as the central hub for integrating all the signals from our internal world. It's here that the brain constructs the subjective experience of how we feel, whether we feel well, nauseated, hungry, or simply unwell. Over a lifetime, our brain builds a massive library of these gut feelings, associating certain bodily states with positive or negative outcomes. These are what the famous neuroscientist Antonio Damasio called somatic markers, unconscious memories of bodily states that guide our decisions. When you meet someone for the first time and get a bad vibe, or when you're facing a tough decision and you just have a gut feeling about which way to go, your brain is doing a lightning-fast search of this emotional memory database. It's predicting how a certain choice will make your body feel, based on a lifetime of similar experiences. This is intuitive decision-making. It's not magic, it's biology. It's your second brain informing your first. Now, we come to the most incredible part of the story. There's a third party in this conversation, a player so massive and influential that it's forcing us to redefine what it even means to be human. I'm talking about the trillions of microorganisms living in your gut microbiota. Let's try to grasp the scale of this. You have about 100 trillion microbes living in your gut. That's roughly the same number of human cells in your entire body. If you were to weigh them all, they'd weigh between 2 and 6 pounds, on par with your brain. But here's the most mind-boggling fact. For every one human gene in your body, there are up to 360 bacterial genes. This means that genetically speaking, we are less than 1% human. We are, as Mayer puts it, superorganisms, a complex ecosystem of human and microbial components that are inseparable and dependent on each other for survival. For most of history, we've thought of bacteria as dangerous germs to be destroyed. And while some are harmful, the vast majority of our gut microbes are not only harmless but are essential for our health. They are our ancient partners in an evolutionary contract forged over hundreds of millions of years. We give them a safe place to live and a steady supply of food. In return, they perform incredible services for us. They help us digest food components we can't handle on our own, synthesize essential vitamins, regulate our metabolism, and train our immune system. But the most revolutionary discovery of the last decade is that these microbes are not silent partners. They are active participants in the mind-gut conversation. They speak a sophisticated biochemical language that Mayer calls microbe speak. How can these tiny creatures possibly talk to our brain? In several incredible ways. First, some of them can produce neurotransmitters directly. That's right, the very same chemicals our brain uses to regulate mood. Certain strains of beneficial bacteria, like lactobacilli and bifidobacteria, can produce a substance called GABA, which is the brain's primary calming neurotransmitter. It's the same molecule targeted by anti-anxiety drugs like Valium and Xanax. Essentially, our gut microbes could be our own personal anti-anxiety factory. Second, they communicate through our immune system. The microbes lining our gut are in constant dialogue with the immune cells just beneath the surface. When the ecosystem is in balance, the microbes send all is well signals. But if the wrong kinds of microbes take over, or if our diet is poor, they can trigger an inflammatory response. This inflammation doesn't just stay in the gut. The inflammatory molecules, called cytokines, can travel through the bloodstream or up the vagus nerve to the brain, where they can cause fatigue, pain sensitivity, and even depression. This low-grade, chronic inflammation starting in the gut is now thought to be a key link between our modern diet and many serious brain diseases. Third, and perhaps most importantly, microbes talk to us through the molecules they produce from our food. When you eat, you're not just feeding yourself, you're feeding the trillions of microbes in your gut. They feast on the leftovers of our digestion, particularly the fiber from plants that our own bodies can't break down. In the process, they transform this food into hundreds of thousands of different molecules, called metabolites. Many of these metabolites are neuroactive, meaning they can interact with our nervous system. They can stimulate the serotonin-producing cells in the gut, signal the brain via the vagus nerve, or travel through the bloodstream to influence our mood, sleep, and overall well-being. This entire, complex communication system, the brain, the gut, and the microbiome, is not set in stone at birth. It is programmed during the most critical window of our lives, from the moment we are in the womb until about the age of 3. And our earliest life experiences leave a lasting trace on this axis. We now know that stress during pregnancy can alter the mother's vaginal microbiome, which in turn influences the first microbes that seed the baby's gut during birth. This is one reason why babies born via C-section, who miss this crucial microbial inoculation, start life with a different set of microbes and have a higher risk for certain health issues later on. Then comes the most important food in early life: breast milk. Human breast milk is a miracle of evolution. It contains special complex sugars called human milk oligosaccharides, or HMOs. These sugars are indigestible by the baby, so they're not for the baby's nutrition. They are prebiotics, designed specifically to feed and cultivate a healthy community of beneficial bacteria, particularly bifidobacteria, in the infant's gut. This early programming sets the stage for a lifetime of health. Just as crucial is our early emotional environment. Drive. Mayer tells the story of Jennifer, a woman who suffered from lifelong anxiety, depression, and severe IBS. When he asked her about her childhood, a story of intense stress unfolded, a family health crisis while she was in the womb, followed by years of her parents fighting and a bitter divorce. This kind of adverse childhood experience doesn't just create bad memories, it biologically rewires the developing brain-gut axis. Animal studies have shown that pups of stressed, neglectful mothers grow up to have a hyper-responsive stress system. They produce more of the stress molecule CRF, their guts are more sensitive, and they are more prone to anxiety and depression-like behaviors. This happens through a process called epigenetics, where life experiences attach chemical tags to our DNA, changing how our genes are expressed without changing the genes themselves. These early experiences program us for life, making us more vulnerable to stress-sensitive disorders like IBS. So we have this ancient, beautifully complex system, programmed in our earliest years to keep us in balance. But what happens when this system collides with the modern world? The result is a catastrophe, and the primary culprit is the modern North American diet. For hundreds of thousands of years, our gut and our microbes co-evolved with a diet rich in a huge variety of plants, with a small amount of lean meat. The Yanomami people of the Amazon, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer groups, have a gut microbiome with astounding diversity, far greater than that of people in industrialized nations. But our modern diet, high in animal fat, sugar, and processed foods, and low in plant diversity, is a massive shock to this system. It represents an onslaught that our evolution did not foresee. Here's how the damage unfolds. A diet high in animal fat promotes the growth of microbes that thrive on bile acids. Some of these microbes have components in their cell walls, like lipopolysaccharide or LPs, that are highly inflammatory. This high-fat diet also makes our gut wall leakier, allowing these inflammatory molecules to cross into the bloodstream, a condition sometimes called metabolic endotoxemia. This triggers the low-grade, chronic inflammation that spreads throughout the body and up to the brain. In the hypothalamus, the brain's appetite control center, this inflammation numbs the sensors that are supposed to tell you when you're full. The satiety signals are still being sent from the gut, but the brain isn't listening properly. The result? You overeat, gain weight, and the cycle continues. It gets worse. This diet also fuels a system in our brain called the dopamine reward system. Highly palatable foods, rich in fat and sugar, provide a pleasure hit that can be as powerful as some drugs, leading to cravings and even food addiction in vulnerable individuals. Some scientists even hypothesize that our gut microbes can manipulate our eating behavior to serve their own needs, generating cravings for the very foods that help them outcompete other microbes. And it's not just the fat and sugar. Our processed foods are loaded with artificial sweeteners and emulsifiers. Recent studies have shown that these additives can wreak havoc on our gut microbiota. Artificial sweeteners, designed to help us lose weight, can actually promote the growth of microbes that are more efficient at extracting calories from food, leading to weight gain and blood sugar problems. Food emulsifiers, added to things like ice cream and bread to improve texture, can erode the protective mucus layer of our gut, allowing bacteria to get closer to our gut wall and trigger inflammation. This modern assault is at the root of our current health crisis. It's reprogramming our gut-brain axis in a way that promotes chronic disease. But the story doesn't end here. Because if we understand the problem, we can find the solution. The path back to health doesn't lie in a magic pill or a fad diet. It lies in returning to an ecological view of our bodies. It means respecting the ancient contract we have with our microbes. Drive. Mayer points to the wisdom of traditional diets, like the Mediterranean diet. During a trip to a small town in Italy, he experienced firsthand that it's not just a list of ingredients. It's a way of life. It's food grown in rich, microbially diverse soil. It's the high polyphenol content of olive oil from ancient trees. It's the social connection of sharing a meal with loved ones. All of these things feed not just our bodies, but our entire brain-gut microbiome ecosystem. The simple road toward wellness begins with a paradigm shift. We must stop thinking of our bodies as machines to be fixed and start seeing them as internal gardens to be cultivated. The food we eat, the stress we manage, and the emotions we feel are the tools we use to tend to this garden every single day. Commentary. As we come to the end of our journey through the mind-gut connection, I'm left with one profound, and honestly, life-altering idea: we are not who we think we are. The traditional view of the self as a single, autonomous being is an illusion. The science in this book paints a much grander and more humbling picture. We are ecosystems. Each of us is a walking, talking community of trillions of organisms, a superorganism made of human and microbial parts, all locked in a constant, intricate dance of communication. This isn't just a cool scientific fact, it's a fundamental shift in how we should approach our health and our lives. For generations, we've declared war on our bodies. We've used militaristic metaphors, launching scorched earth attacks on cancer cells with toxic chemicals or unleashing broad-spectrum antibiotics to wipe out bacteria. Drive. Mayer's work gently asks us to lay down our weapons. It suggests we should stop acting like warriors and start acting like park rangers, or better yet, gardeners. Our goal shouldn't be to conquer and control, but to cultivate balance, diversity, and resilience within our internal ecosystem. So, what does this mean for you, right now, today? How can you start being a better gardener for your own internal world? Here are a few simple, powerful actions you can take. First, maximize the diversity of your diet, especially with plants. Think of your gut microbes like a diverse workforce. You want specialists for every job. The more different types of plants you eat, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds, the more diverse your microbial community will be. This diversity is the key to resilience. It helps your internal ecosystem withstand disturbances, whether from a course of antibiotics, a stressful week, or a bout of food poisoning. And don't forget fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and kimchi. They are a great way to introduce beneficial microbes into your system. Second, manage your emotional theater. Remember that every emotion you feel plays out on the stage of your gut. Chronically feeling stressed, angry, or anxious creates a hostile environment for your beneficial microbes. This doesn't mean you should never feel these emotions. It means you should be mindful of them. Before you eat a meal, take 3 slow, deep breaths. Do a quick scan of your body. Are you tense? Are you anxious? If so, recognize that this emotional state is going to affect how you digest your food and what messages your gut sends to your brain. Simply being aware of this connection is the first step toward changing it. Eating in a calm, relaxed state is one of the kindest things you can do for your gut. And third, learn to listen to your gut feelings. Your body is communicating with you all the time. But in our noisy, distraction-filled world, we've forgotten how to listen. Start paying attention. When you eat a certain food, how do you feel an hour later? Not just physically, but emotionally. Do you feel energized and clear, or sluggish and foggy? When you're faced with a decision, what is that subtle, quiet feeling in the pit of your stomach telling you? Your gut feelings are a powerful source of intuitive wisdom, built from a lifetime of biological data. The more you listen to them, the stronger and more reliable they will become. That was a deep dive into the core ideas of the mind-gut connection by Drive. Emeran Mayer. We've explored the highlights today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only take you so far. The real magic happens when you hold the book in your hands and let the ideas sink in at your own pace. It's in the quiet moments, when a particular story or a simple phrase connects with your own life in a way you didn't expect. This podcast is designed to give you a map of the territory, to help you decide if this is a journey worth taking. If anything we've talked about today has resonated with you, I truly encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning information, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself, your health, and your place in the world. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it sparked a new idea or a question for you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.